Hello guys, welcome to maybe a Braincell, Storytime edition. Today's topic is going to be our college experiences. It's no secret that we're old boomers.
Do not call us that, please.
Please don't, actually.
We're boomers.
We are not boomers. We are literally not boomers. We can be old, but we're not boomers.
Let me be a millennial with my avocado toast.
It's no secret that we're on the older side. We've been through college at whatever length that we have. And we're just going to tell back some stories of our experiences through college. These experiences actually are movie-esque, like literal scenes taken out from movies where we're just like, what the heck? So it was a night where a group of us had went out to eat, I believe ramen at that time. We had just found like a really awesome ramen spot we wanted to try out together. We're like, oh yeah.
It was like a new one
context
in downtown, right?
What?
It was a new ramen place in downtown.
Right. And just to put into context, where we went to college was a smaller town that wasn't necessarily ethnically diverse. So something like that definitely caught our interest because it was new. And it was something that we do enjoy, like ramen. Who does not enjoy, like, actual ramen? You know?
And I think it was actually supposed to be, like, one of those, kind of, like, hippie, fresh ingredients, all organic kind of stuff.
Low-key, gentrified version of ramen.
But that's a different story.
Because we're still tasty.
But yeah, so we had just an awesome night, group of friends going out to eat. To put this in perspective, that being said, we did go to a school that was in a smaller town, and during this time, none of us really had cars, so we actually walked around a lot of places during this time, and this was no exception. A lot of things were in a relatively close distance, so it wasn't that bad, I would say, in terms of, like, walking from campus, the dorms where we lived at the time, to the restaurant.
Yeah, well, it was still probably about up to an hour walking, but, like, we were with good company, so it didn't really matter that much.
We were with good company, yeah. Definitely, we weren't alone. It wasn't just, like, 3 tiny little girls walking around, like, the sketchy part of town. Because
we had a pretty big group.
We were safe, and honestly, good company makes it go by faster, so we didn't even realize we were walking that much. So, we're coming back, and like we said, it is a bit of a far walk, but it did start raining. I remember that. Nothing in the weather really indicated that it would start raining, but it was rainy season for us during that time, so it was common for that to happen. So we were actually trying to rush back home. It was like halfway through the walk when it started raining. And to get to where we needed to, the dorms, we had to cross a bridge that essentially was perpendicular to an exit on the highway. And this will pertain to the other story, but
perpendicular to an exit and an entrance.
Yeah. So it's like, it can get busy, and in general, that was actually a heavy traffic street. It was a main street anyways, coming downwards, the street that we were walking forward on. So the bridge we were walking on, it was fine, we had umbrellas, actually. Someone was smart enough, actually a lot of people were smart enough, I guess, to bring extra umbrellas just in case. Because again...
Unfortunately, not all of us.
Because again, it was rainy season. It's just, I didn't have an umbrella during that time, so I ended up having to share with, I think it was you, Kay.
Probably, but you know what? It ended up useless in the end.
It did! So, we're sharing an umbrella. Oh my gosh, romantic, right?
It's your true soju moment.
We're walking across this bridge, and we're walking against traffic, so a car just, like, rushes past. Because, green light, they're just gonna go. The speed past. They run over a puddle, and it splashes the group. Technically.
Now, mind you, it has been raining for a little while, so there's enough time for water to build up and create puddles.
It doesn't help that the sidewalk was actually pretty high, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then the puddles were able to build to be pretty big.
Yeah, because for the most part, the streets weren't necessarily level and straight. because we did go to school where there was a bunch of hills, and just in general, there were a lot of potholes and just like divots in the street. It's really easy. So when I say technically it splashed the entire group, it did. However, the way we were standing, there was us three on the sidewalk. It was another one of our friends on one side. There was me in the middle, and then Kay on the side, closest to the street. I turned out fine. I wasn't splashed, but Kay was soaking wet.
Absolutely. Because as I was just saying, even though we had an umbrella in our midst, it was completely useless, because what are you supposed to do when a bunch of water comes at you? Not from above, but to your side.
And it was so funny too, Kay screams, and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm soaking wet," and I'm just here like, "Oh, I'm fine."
Straight up. And that was the moment that I was thinking, I saw it happening, I was like, are you kidding me? Am I about to have a movie splash moment?
You got your sad boy hour moment right then and there.
It was like a whole R&B, early 2000s R&B music
Straight
video.
up soaking wet, man. And they make those look nice, hot, and sexy, right? Not a good time for me. Not at all.
I mean, you looked good. However, you did look soaked.
My cold right side of my body would like to contest.
Yeah. But thank you for covering for me.
I'm glad I could do something, apparently.
And honestly, not to add, like, more stress to Kay, but when I say this was an entire movie sequence, it was, because not even another 20 feet further, like I've mentioned before, we were walking on a bridge that is perpendicular to a highway exit. So a lot of people, there was a light, but a lot of people sometimes miss that for some reason, or just think, oh, I'll run the yellow, and they're not close enough to run the yellow, and instead they run a red. And so that being said, like, not even 20 feet later,
Well, I'm soaking wet, and we're all kind of talking about that, a little distracted.
We just hear the screeching of tires, and we hear, like, cars impacting each other. That was, to say the least, one of the most stressful and traumatic times of my life. I will put a disclaimer out already. No one seemed seriously injured, thankfully. So no one was seriously injured, but it was a car accident nonetheless.
Definitely something extremely shocking.
Yes.
Like, we just hear that loud noise of something happening, and all of us were like, holy shit, what just happened?
Yeah. So, like, we were all shocked, and, like, no one could really process what was going on until one of our older college friends, like, he was, I believe this was sophomore, so it was his senior year, correct? Something
no,
like
I
that.
think it happened freshman year, and then he was a
It
junior.
happened late freshman year?
Are you sure? I think it was sophomore year.
It had to be. You know why? Because Latte and Elle were there, and sophomore year, it had to have been early sophomore year because they were more free.
Maybe. Oh, I don't know.
It was one of the days we actually got to eat ramen, like, got to hang out with them.
That is true.
Irregardless, I mean, that's a really minor detail, but he took initiative and started walking over, in which Elle and Latte also did. And I was getting ready to go when I turned around and looked Kay dead in the eye and told Kay, you need to call emergency, call 911, so we can get that out of the way. Because at the same time, during this time, like, we didn't know if anyone was actually seriously injured. We do know now, but, in the case that someone was a lot more seriously injured, we would have had to call anyway, just because of the laws of our state required that witnesses essentially do what be a witness. They have to call for the people in the accident, because it's not something you think of first. And for one of the cars, they were stuck literally in the middle of the intersection, so they did definitely have to move their car, but it wasn't turning on. The engine was shot. So
yeah, and it was smoking too. So.
It was smoking too. So the man turned off his car, and with the help of our upperclassmen, Latte and Elle, they started helping push the car forward. And the other car was okay-ish. They pulled over to the side and they just parked. I believe, funny, it's just so funny how this happened, and we ended up calling the police. We pushed the car to the side, and we end up going to a sandwich shop to, to sort of base out.
Right there on the corner, so it's pretty convenient. And the store workers also saw or heard what happened, so they had no problems letting us just camp out.
Yeah, the people saw it. The operator did tell us, in which Kay, told us, they were the middleman for that we had to stay within the area. They heard, oh yeah, there's a sandwich shop here. They're like, okay, base out there. The police are going to want your statement, blah, blah, blah. So we were there, and again, this isn't something you expect to happen. And, most people don't actually witness a car accident. So for the workers and even the people sitting in the restaurant, they were talking about it. It's crazy. They noticed that everyone looked okay, though.
I think the worst that we know of was that someone got a bloody nose. I think that was it.
Yeah, but I think he ended up still going to the hospital because he did hit his head, his face within, at the back of the seat, because I think he was in the back seat. And just in case, concussion or a broken nose, they wanted to double check that he was okay. Like I said,
the hospital was pretty nearby too,
yeah,
so at least the paramedics were able to get on at the scene pretty quickly.
Yeah, so like I said, with the disclaimer, no one was actually seriously injured. There were people that were injured, and I'm sure, the whiplash we don't know about, but no one, got seriously injured or required, immediate medical attention. But I just remember one of the firefighters coming in as well and going, hey, who was it that called? And I ended up having to be the one to talk to the firefighter. He's like, okay, when the police get here, because, first responders, especially for car accidents, typically tend to be paramedics and essentially fire team. They send out the firefighters in case, a car decides to catch on fire and things like that.
Which they actually asked about in the call, too. They're like, is anyone trapped in the car? Is anything on fire?
And if anything, the firefighters would have the equipment to break open a car in the case that someone was trapped in it. Minor details once again, but I remember he's like, okay, the police are coming, we're gonna need to take a statement, blah blah blah, yada yada, and I'm like, alright, I'll let everyone know. I come around, I'm like, I'm gonna be completely honest to all my friends. I need to know who saw the accident because I blinked and it happened. I heard it before I even saw it.
Mimachu.
And I think it was Kay, Latte, and our upper class. You were the ones, essentially, that helped give the statement, right?
Yeah, but our upperclassman is the one that ended up solidifying on it. He was the most certain about what happened.
Yeah, I just straight up went, don't ever, I'm not saying it's a waste of time, but if you can just, when in a case like this, if you can just narrow it down to one person anyways giving a statement, it helps them out so much more.
But yeah, at least having someone that's certain,
coherent,
able to give a clear statement, that's what really
very
helps.
coherent. Because again, a lot of us were shooken up. For me, it was the adrenaline keeping me going. Because once we essentially finished with what we needed to do and we ended up going to a friend's house, their apartment. Oh my god, I was shaking so badly.
And I was just like, bro, because not only had I just experienced my own movie moment with getting totally soaked in water, you just low-key forget about it in the adrenaline of the situation, pushing a car out of the way and then trying to figure out how you can help. And you remember when you're at your friend's house and you're just soaking wet. Just sitting there, just decompressing,
Oh my god, yeah, and, they did help. Everyone, he actually had nothing to do with the situation. We're just like, can we come over? This happened. And he's like, yeah. Mind you,
It was pretty funny, because, we straight up just showed up at his apartment door and knocked on it, and he was like, huh?
Right.
And we were like, yeah.
But, he was understanding, and I'm grateful for that, because had we separated, I probably would not have handled that a lot as much as I did. Like, it would have been a lot more stressful for me to try and piece together what happened. And, he did a good job, keeping us occupied. Because, like I said, I was shaking.
Hard not to be shook, even if we weren't even directly involved with it, just knowing the situation, what happened.
Exactly.
Pretty shocking.
But yeah, talk about an eventful day. Like, that all happened in one day.
Accident taking up most of it. First we're in a movie, and the next thing you know, we're like in those disaster first responder movies
Right,
instead of like those emo I'm crying in the rain types.
Oh my gosh. Honestly though, I tell a lot of people, like, when I go through job interviews, they're like, can you handle high stress situations? I'm like, I handled a car accident, sure, why not? Like, I literally witnessed, and it was all of us collectively, but I'm like, I managed to get through that. Like, I got through that. Not a lot of people can say, oh yeah, I saw this and managed to do everything, not necessarily correctly, but we managed to do everything.
At least, there's this thing that's called the bystander effect that I'm pretty sure most people have heard because it became pretty popular for, like, psychology, pop culture. But it's a very real thing, and luckily, at least for our group, we managed to push through and actually help out the situation instead of letting other people handle the situation.
Yeah, because, I mean, it was very clear that a lot of the people in the restaurant didn't think anything of it. No one came out rushing, oh my god, this happened. Again, there's no faulting people for doing that, like, realistically speaking. If you saw a situation like that, would you have actually been able to physically stop yourself and help,
More than anything, I feel like if they were sitting in the shop, and I mean, like, I'm at fault with this too, but you're sitting there, you hear something, but you don't think too much about it, even if it might just be just there. Because if it happened, there's probably other people around, so.
Yeah. And it again, it just ties into the bystanders effect. You think someone else will handle it. I mean, in this case, yeah, we helped handle it, but, I mean...
But it's also bringing up, like, another point in psychology, and then also, I guess, communication too, that it's one of the situations that you don't know how you'll react until you're actually in that situation. And it's unknown both to yourself and other people's thoughts of you as well.
Exactly. But we broke it. We were awesome. We were superheroes that day.
Not... Also, that's going a little too far. But...
yeah.
But we managed to have a response, and I'll give us props for that.
Hey everyone, it's Jelli. Thank you for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to comment below. Tell us what you think about the video. Thank you. Till next time.